Well, over the last few days, we've interviewed several of the candidates for the Suffolk County Council elections, which will be held on the 2nd of May. We invited everybody. There were 9 candidates for our two divisions, as they're called, one Felixstowe Coastal and the other one North Felixstowe and Trimley. Now, there are 2 places, 2 council vacancies for Felixstowe Coastal, and we have 6 people standing, 1 in each case from the major parties. Nick Barber and Graham Newman are representing the Conservative Party, Seamus Bennett and Jerry McGregor, the Liberal Democrats, and Hattie Bennett and Brenda Shelley, the Labour Party. And in Felixstowe North and Trimley, we've got John Goodwin for the Conservatives, Michael Nimley for the Liberal Democrats, and David Rowe for the Labour Party. Unfortunately, of the 9 that we invited to come into the studio, only 4 managed to think it was important enough. And I find that rather difficult because both Felixstowe Radio and Felixstowe TV are the representatives in many ways of the local community, and they should be allowed to have a voice. There's been a lot of controversy over the years because the councils, none of the councils have ever given any support to these community facilities, which is a bit of a worry. And it points you towards democracy and the democratic process, and just where are we going with that democratic process? We have a chance to vote every few years, but what are we voting for? We tend to be voting at the moment for the major parties. There has been an argument that we should have a Felixstowe party that does for Felixstowe and not concern itself with wider issues. There's some measure in that, I suppose. An independent candidate will find it very hard to break through because you need an organisation behind you. Although I have to say, I've only received, at home, I've received none, and here in the studio, I think we've had 1 candidate let us have their election manifesto. So it's quite difficult to know where you're going with that. There are many issues. The County Council has particular responsibilities, primarily for education, something to do with the roads, social welfare, and a whole package of small items. You say small, I say small, might be health and safety, might be all sorts of other things. They help to glue us together in one way or another. We appear, and I was quite interested, whilst we were talking to John Goodwin, who is the Conservative councillor for Felixstowe North at the moment, who's also responsible for Ways and Means, I think it is, or at least the footpaths. I don't know exactly what the title of it is, but we do have, I think, 9,800 footpaths in this county. So he has something of a responsibility, nevertheless. But he told me that he'd become chairman of the Eastern Facilities Management Solutions Limited, and it had £44 million worth of turnover. Very good. I have to say that conflict of interest immediately shot into my brain. I don't know why it should do that, but I then looked at the Eastern Facilities Management Solutions website. There's nothing to tell me what the structure of the company is, other than it's a private limited company. It has 1 shareholder. One presumes that is Suffolk County Council, but we don't really know. And we don't know who are the management board. And we have a lot of trouble then because they've got responsibility for all of those ancillary services that I was talking about. A lot of the social welfare provisions of the council, all the rest of it. So we put that alongside what's happening to the National Health Service here in Felixstowe. We're effectively, as far as I'm aware now, totally privatised. There is no public provision of service in Felixstowe whatsoever. Our school is now run, our one and only Felixstowe Academy, is run as a private limited company for profit. We're lucky, I suppose, that the primary schools, I think most of them remain within local authority care, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. There is a increasing need to privatise everything. One could look back over the last decade or so and say, has privatisation worked? And now that's another argument that we need maybe to explore. But I think what I'm trying to say is that we need to explore, we need to be involved, we need to be part of our democratic system. Otherwise, we become a one-party state. And the ruling party here in this part of Suffolk has been in power effectively for over a century, with one little blip in the middle. Now that, in my opinion, and everything I'm saying in this little interview here, this recording, is my own personal view and has nothing to do with anybody else. My own personal view is that that's a loss of democracy. We are becoming not much better than the totalitarian regimes that we've talked about over the years across the rest of the world. We have within Suffolk County Council 75 councillors elected. We don't know exactly now, because of this new company that's arrived, just what responsibilities they will have, what influence they will have. That's a bit difficult in itself. But then the council has a cabinet style of government in which the ruling party then selects people from within its own ranks and says, right, we want you to look after this and you after that, and so on. From that moment, that elected cabinet member has virtually total power. He doesn't, or they don't have to refer back for many of the major decisions that they make. They would argue that they are perhaps minor decisions and they shouldn't trouble the larger council. But because we don't have an effective press in Felixstowe now, we have problems. So I do urge you to go and vote on Thursday the 2nd of May. I think it's very necessary. And I'll say a personal opinion. You've got those three candidates, and in Felixstowe Coastal, you can vote for 2 people. So you have a bit of a choice. We don't have any UKIP, we don't have any Green Party in these 2 divisions. But never mind. We have the 3 major parties. There is an alternative, I suppose, that I've heard various people promoting, and that's to attend, to vote, but then to write none of the above. That means that there's a lot of noise. I think there's ghosts in the studio now. That means that you have registered the fact that you've attended, you've been interested enough to vote, but you don't want to vote for any of the candidates that are there. There's an alternative for you, but I do urge you to go and vote on Thursday. I've been Trevor Lockwood, moaning as usual.